We are recording now. Hi, Leisa. How are you?
Hey, Johnie. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
You. Yay. You are actually my very first interview for my podcasting and for my YouTubing going on. And I'm so honored and thankful and grateful that you said yes when I asked you.
Yeah, well, I'm honored. How exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay. So for our learning audience, for our learning and our listening audience, we're all learning, right? I just wanted to introduce Leisa Reid. I am Johnie Urban, and I am owner and founder of the company Sensitive Authentic Speakers. I teach highly sensitive entrepreneurs how to speak in an elegant, well-worded way so that they can actually attract clients and grow their business. And I invited Leisa to come on my very first interview. It's kind of an interesting story. It's like I ran a survey, and a lot of people that answered the survey, entrepreneurs answered the survey, that they're having a hard time finding the gig and the audience that they want, so that they can sell their message and give their message. And Leisa is an expert in that. She's been doing this for so long. I've known Leisa for about 6 years. I first met her when she was speaking at an engagement, and it was just so much fun. She's just a fun, outgoing person, and I just love how she presents in a way that's open and fun and everything. So I said fun a lot of times, didn't I? And anyway, Leisa founded about 6 years ago, when we kind of like about the time we met, the Orange County, this is in California for those outside of that, Orange County Speakers Network group, and they meet once a month, and it's all about speakers coming together and kind of like brainstorming and figuring out how they can help each other and refer them to other speaking areas. So without further ado, I would like to start with Leisa, and she's going to share with you how she gets in front of her perfect audience. It's a little bit it's not unique, but it's necessary, and it's what she does, and she's really great at it. So Leisa, it's kind of like one of the first questions I want to ask you is, how did you start in this speaking business? It's like a speaking/sales business, but how did you start? What compelled you to start this?
Great question, Johnie. And yeah, it's funny how I was an overnight success. It only took me 40 years. It's the interesting, our history is so funny. I actually did my very first public speaking, like big public speaking event, when I was in 7th grade. I was at 7th or 8th grade, something like that. I was asked to speak in front of our entire middle school on seatbelt safety. And I did. I had a partner, a co-speaker with me. And I remember really loving it. Even though I wasn't crazy about seatbelt safety. I mean, I do wear a seatbelt, but it wasn't the most exciting topic in the world. And then that stayed with me for a while. That memory stayed with me. And I actually, when I did end up going to college, I got my bachelor's and master's in speech communication. And I taught at Cal State Fullerton. While I was in my master's program, I taught interpersonal communication. So there's always been this part of me that likes to teach, which usually is a form of public speaking, right? It's like, oh yeah, teachers don't always think of themselves as public speakers, but you're in front of an audience of people. And that's the style that I really embrace as a speaker. There's different styles. I'm the facilitator teacher style. That's my favorite thing. But how it then morphed into my professional life, about 6 years ago, I was hired by a company called Productive Learning. We're a personal development company, and I was a huge fan of their workshops. I had taken workshops with them for about 3 years, and it's really like uncovering your self-mastery, like discovering your self-mastery, like who are you? What decisions do you make? What thoughts do you have? What feelings do you have that help you get in the right direction, or maybe pull you on a different direction that you don't want. So we got to figure that out. And I was a huge fan, and they decided they wanted to have someone go out to the local area and speak on their behalf, like basically teach a mini workshop, if you will, and then I would attract clients from there. So I did, even though this is the interesting part, Johnie. So even though I had the bachelor's degree, this was years ago, I had gotten those years ago, even though I was naturally interested in speaking, I didn't know how the whole speaking thing worked, professionally. And so even though I had that experience, I did learn a lot in that first year. How do you get booked? How do you show up? How do you create sales? Those kind of things I didn't know. I didn't have a training on that. So that was a big part of my learning. And since then, in the last 6 years, I've booked and delivered over 400 speaking engagements just in my local area. So
yeah,
I 100% know that's possible for people who, want to share their message. I consider it like the ripple effect. Like you're like, I want you, there's something, even if you're scared, like there's something within us that's like, I need to get this message out so that I can help other people. And that's really powerful. So I think that's important.
that's awesome, Leisa. And yes, I took one of your courses at Productive Learning, and it was phenomenal. It really was. It was well worth my all the time and every excuse me.
I'm going to turn my headset on because I think I hear some noise.
Okay.
There we go. Is that better?
That's better. Are you better? Are you okay with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay. Sorry, it was just there was a little bit of background noise here, so I want to make sure everyone can hear.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Great. Okay, that's an incredible story. And your numbers for speaking, and this is just local, 400.
Yeah.
And this is just local. So it's really, it's people say, I don't know where to get speaking gigs locally. I don't want to fly across the country all the time and do all that traveling. So, you did it just within and less than an hour's drive from where you are. Yeah. And that's incredible. That's incredible. So, I want to ask you a few more questions. What do you think is one of the biggest obstacles that speakers have?
I think it's often that they don't know where to go. And I think we've talked about this a little bit. It's like, where do I go to get the speaking gigs? How do I always say it's really hard to be a speaker if you don't have an audience, right? Like you
can't speak into a void all the time, right?
Like I have this great message, but who's going to listen to it? And so I think that's the question. I think also, and tell me if you find this to be true as well, that self-doubt is actually one of our biggest obstacles, because we think, well, this is what I hear from speakers a lot that I work with. Like, is this gonna, are people gonna want to hear this? Is this like really valuable? Like they feel it's valuable, but then when other people, when it comes to being up there on stage, all of our doubts and insecurities can come up. And they're thinking, well, and then unfortunately, those doubts and insecurities can keep them from taking the steps forward. And so I think it takes courage to get out there and speak. It really does. If it were easy, everybody would do it. But what I can say is that you will survive. See, I'm still alive. We're going to do it. Even though sometimes I still feel intimidated or nervous. I know that there's people who need to hear what I have to say, who can benefit from what I have to say. So for speakers who have a gift, there's some kind of expertise that you have that can heal people, can help people, can whatever that is, help them with their business or their life or their health or whatever your gift is, that is important to share. So I think if we can keep that in mind, that's a real motivator for people.
Yeah. It's kind of like digging up what your big why is, because if your why is bigger than your fear, the why will win out.
Yeah. So it's like keeping that top of mind, like what am I doing this for?
Yeah. And it's interesting that you said it's like you don't know who your audience is, you don't know, and then the insecurity of not knowing if the people are going to want to hear your message. But it's actually in my program, one of the components I have is validating your speech idea. So that you go out and you kind of interview a handful of people and say, is this a good idea? Would you want to hear this?
That's a great idea. You're really good at like surveying and those kind of things. Yeah. I think of it as like, when you put like, and I'm not a farmer, and I'm not even that great with plants, I will say. But what I do know is conceptually, when I was a kid, I grew up in Fairbanks, Alaska, and in the summer we would plant flowers. And you get a packet of seeds, but they're not all going to turn into flowers. They're not all going to turn into vegetables or whatever. But you put all of them out there anyway. You don't know which one is going to sprout. And it's the same with speaking. When you're speaking, you don't know who in the audience is going to sprout, who really needed to hear what you had to say that day.
Yeah.
And, but you don't know that until you go out there and try. If you don't go out there and try, you're definitely not going to get any flowers or vegetables. You know, like you're not going to know. So.
Yeah, we don't know who's going to be ready. It speaks to when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Absolutely.
The student could be sitting there, and then finally one day the message hits them, and they're just like, oh yeah, I need that. I need whatever I just heard, because I've heard it for 10 different people, 10 different ways, and they're just finally getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's important that we get out there, that the speakers get out there. It's not just actually being live. Like you do a lot of live audiences because you're actually going to the people in their group. But what's coming up in the future is online. Is the videos online and everything. And so whatever you do, you still have to do it. You still have to find your audience. You still have to formulate the speech. You still have to have that confidence that your message is going to help people. And still the same core belief that what you have is going to help people, and here's your message.
Agreed. And what's so cool about this day and age, what we have available, you can use different platforms to share your message, whether it's an online program, like I teach a virtual class, because then people don't need to live in California or fly to California to come see me. They can just pop on Zoom like we're on right now, and access the information, and then bring that to their local community. And you can do that as a speaker too. You can like say, oh, I'm going to host a webinar or host a class or do a Facebook Live, YouTube channel. Like there's like a million ways to Sunday to deliver your message.
Yeah, like exactly like this, what we're recording right now, and what I'm going to be doing going forward with other people I interview is this is going to be posted like LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. It's going to be on a podcast. And it's so easy to do that. It's like I can do that myself. Eventually I might hire someone to do it. But it's so much fun. For me, it's fun. I love the creative tech. And I just dive into it so I can learn it and do it. And then when I run out of time, I says, okay, I need help. But yeah, we all have the same amount of time. But we can.
That's right.
Yeah, without driving ourselves crazy. Okay, so let me see. What's another really great question?
Well, I know you were saying that in the survey, some people were asking like, how do I get speaking engagements, or how do I know where to go? Is that something that
they basically they're looking for paid speaking gigs. They can get all the free ones in the world. But there's a small number of people that said, oh, I can get all the free ones in the world, but I want to get paid to speak. And that's a whole different animal. Not realizing that if you had a product, a service, or a company or business that served people, and you got up in front of like you, Leisa, 400 people, I mean, and you do the math, you can figure out, you can generate a lot more money in income and serve a lot more people by being able to sell from the stage, basically, or in the back of the room when your talk is over, versus getting a few dollars for speaking on the stage. It's a different animal. And so could you speak to that, Leisa?
Yeah, it is a little bit different. And I think what we're challenged with is like people before the internet, there was only, as paid speakers was the thing. And now we have so much access, TED Talks and YouTube and all these things. We have access to get the information when we want to get it instead of having to go to a conference or having to go. Now, there's still a huge market for paid speaking. But, just one of the things that I think is really important is understanding what your vision is as a speaker. And I think that's actually the more important question to start from before you go like, am I going to be a paid or what we call maybe speak for free? People, I don't refer to it that way, but I know a lot of people do. And it's like, what are you trying to achieve? What is your goal? What is your vision for what you want? And is that a combination of a monetary vision, a travel or not travel? Like that's a question I'll often ask people, like, where do you want to travel? Like, what's your lifestyle like? Do you have little kids at home? Are you retired? Do you hate traveling? Do you love traveling? I mean, those are very important questions to ask, because yes, if you're going to do more of the paid speaker route, there is a lot more opportunity for travel. It's going to be
a lot more.
Want to be doing it, then that's part of the equation. It doesn't mean it's going to happen all the time, but I mean, that's typically part of the equation. And so if you're in a situation where you just like, I know one person I talked to, she's like, I could travel 365 days. I'm like, perfect. Then that's a suitable route for that person versus someone who's like, well, I want to be able to, stay home with my kids more and make an income so that I can, be able to work from home or whatever that is. That's a little bit different. So I think sometimes it's the vision, and then also monetarily, there's, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to make X amount of thousands of dollars if I do this one speaking engagement. Or, and then if I had 10, then I would have this. It's like, well, what else do you have to offer besides that speaker fee? What else is available to you besides the speaker fee? Or in addition to the speaker fee, is there another way you can leverage your services, your products, whatever that is, so that you can, so it's not about the speaker fee. It's like, what are your monetary goals and how might those come into you? I think it's really just a lack of information. Sometimes people think, well, I'll be a speaker because they make so much money, and they're thinking if they get paid to speak. It's just a different type of animal. If you're more of like a keynote person and you don't necessarily want to coach people, or you don't have a product or service to sell, but you love research and you love keynoting, that is more than your paid speaker route. But then there's other things that you'll need to get in order so that you can go that direction.
Yeah, it's an entirely different platform. Yeah, and it's entirely different from what you do and from what even I teach.
Yeah.
And I'll be interviewing someone down the road. I have a friend that we're gonna get hold of and talk to her as an agent for speakers.
Perfect.
And I'm not gonna name her yet because I haven't really
to be revealed.
And we can just give her wisdom about her side of the speaker realm, and we'll go from that. So, okay, so Leisa, if you could, because you're a wealth of information and you also have workshops and everything for what you do, you help people, you help speakers get in front of audiences pretty much. And you have a particular method and a system and everything. And I know you want to help and get this message out to as many people as possible and help them. Could you tell our audience how they can get hold of you so that they can tap into this resource?
Sure. So, my website is getspeakinggigsnow.com. So getspeakinggigsnow.com, and I will put that in the comments. And at that website, you're welcome to book a call with me. I call it the Speaker Success Assessment Call, because what we talk about on that call is, what is your vision? What is your vision that you're trying to achieve? Like, you're here, but you want to be there. And then we also talk about what holes are in it and keeping you from that. Like what's in the way of you achieving that vision. And if there's some holes that I can help you fill, then I'll explain the resources that I can offer. For those of you who are who it's for anybody, but who's looking to get more speaking gigs, you can always jump on my website where there's virtual programs, and I teach different virtual workshops throughout the year. So you'll see the next date available on there, and we'll put the link in for that as well. I know you asked me something else, but yeah. So, I was going to clarify something. So one of the philosophies that I like to go by is I would rather I prefer teaching someone how to fish versus giving a fish. So I don't get the speaking gigs for you, but instead I teach you how to get the ones that are best for you. And that's so ideal. And just because I've done 400 doesn't mean that number is what you need to do. Or I always say, don't judge your beginning by someone else's middle. It's like I started not knowing what I was doing and was ignorance on fire. And now I try to cut that ignorance out for people. like actually, you don't have to do it that way. There's a lot simpler way to do it. You don't have to struggle. So I try to eliminate that growth time for my clients. So that's like, let's get you all set up. Let's make sure you've got all your ducks in a row so that when you can hit the ground running, you know what to say, you know where to go, you know who your ideal audience is. And then when you get there, you deliver, and you have a way that you can generate, and attract your ideal client. So it's kind of that beginning to the end of how it is as a speaker.
Yeah. So it sounds like you help simplify what can be a complicated process.
Yeah.
If we all tend to overcomplicate things, where we listen to other people and we're like, oh, I need to do everything, when you really just need to simplify it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't do any fancy technology or, program. You don't have to have fancy software, none of that. There's just some basic, simple things that you want to have in your, and I still speak all the time. So I speak probably 4 to 5 times to 6 times a month, depending on what month we're in. And I keep everything in my car. So it's like, I'm like, walk the walk. Like, this is what you're going to need. Here's what, based on what you're trying to do. Here's the little doohickeys you're going to need, but simple, not complicated.
Yeah. That's just so smart. That's so smart. That's why I love you, Leisa. That's why you're grounded, down to earth. You help the people that you're meant to serve. And it's just, it's all good. I love
you too. How exciting for you to get this show. I love it.
Yeah. I think it's going to help a lot of people. But thank you so much for all your time and your wisdom.
Thank you.
And and I really appreciate you being here and being my very first one.
Yay, woo! Inaugural launch. The launch has happened. Very exciting.
Okay. So Leisa, you have a great day, and
thank you.
And I just really appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, Johnie. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Johnie Urban, founder and owner of Sensitive Authentic Speaker. SensitiveAuthenticSpeaker.com.